Great games don't always succeed. Bad timing, poor marketing, missed audiences, they fell through the cracks. But today, we give them the spotlight they deserved. These games flopped, yet live forever in our hearts. When Mad Max launched in 2015, it faced some harsh criticism for following the familiar Ubisoft formula, a vast open world littered with icons and repetitive side activities. But those who stuck with it discovered something far more compelling. A brutal, immersive wasteland that perfectly captured the spirit of the Mad Max films. Where the game truly shined was in its vehicular combat. The magnum opus, Max's ever-evolving car, wasn't just a vehicle, it was your lifeline. The scorched deserts, ruined cities, and oil-stained strongholds felt ripped straight from Fury Road. Dynamic sandstorms would roll in without warning, turning the screen into a chaotic blur as you fought to survive. The game didn't just look like a Mad Max movie, it felt like one. Years later, Mad Max has quietly built a cult following. Players who dismissed it at launch are now revisiting it and realizing just how much it got right. If you ever wanted a true Mad Max simulator, this is as close as it gets. Enslaved is one of those special games that somehow got overlooked. It came out back in 2010 from the team that would later make Hellblade, and it had everything going for it: an emotional story, incredible motion capture performances, and gorgeous post-apocalyptic environment. You play as Monkey, who gets forced into helping a young woman cross dangerous territory. Their evolving relationship is what really makes the game memorable. The gameplay mixes melee combat and puzzle solving. It's not super challenging, but that actually works in its favor. The game wants you to enjoy the journey and the story without getting frustrated. And what a journey it is! The world is this beautiful mix of crumbling cities being taken back by nature, with sunlight streaming through broken skyscrapers. It's hard to understand why Enslaved didn't find a bigger audience. Maybe it was too story-focused for some players, or maybe it just got lost in the shuffle of bigger releases. But if you enjoy narrative-driven games with heart, this is one you shouldn't miss. Let's talk about one of gaming's biggest mysteries. How did Sunset Overdrive, that crazy, colorful, irreverent open-world shooter, end up being such a commercial failure? We're talking about a studio that made Ratchet and Clank and would later create Spider-Man, releasing what might be their most creative game ever. Only to reportedly earn just $567 in royalties at one point. Yes, you heard that right, $567 for a AAA game. First, the game itself was brilliant. The movement system, grinding on rails, bouncing off cars while running, was fluid and exhilarating. The weapons were insane. The humor was sharp, the art style popped, and the co-op was chaotic fun. It was everything a gamer could want. Fresh, fast, and full of personality. So, what went wrong? Marketing mayhem. Microsoft had no idea how to sell this game. Ads made it look like just another zombie shooter, completely missing its unique tone. Today, it's getting the recognition it deserved. Maybe, just maybe, it'll get that sequel fans still beg for. Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy is a title that delivered exactly what fans wanted, yet still stumbled commercially. This wasn't just another licensed cash grab, but a lovingly crafted adventure that captured the heart and humor of the ragtag space crew perfectly. Each mission revealed new layers to these characters, from Rocket's hidden vulnerability to Drax's unexpectedly poetic worldview. The game took bold creative risks, including entire chapters where gameplay took a backseat to character development and bizarre cosmic detours. These moments, like an entire sequence set to an 80s power ballad, became what players remembered most. Yet despite critical acclaim and multiple Game of the Year awards, Square Enix deemed its sales performance lacking. The shadow of Marvel's Avengers likely scared off potential buyers, while the single-player focus may have seemed out of step with industry trends. Whatever the reasons, the result remains disappointing, a masterclass in character-driven storytelling that may never get the sequel it deserves. Guardians of the Galaxy proves that even when developers perfectly translate a beloved property into game form, success is never guaranteed. For those who did play it, the experience lingers as one of gaming's most authentic superhero adventures. Splinter Cell is a series that defines stealth action for an entire generation. The early games were masterclasses in tension and atmosphere, making you feel like a real covert operative. Sam Fisher wasn't just another action hero, he was a professional, relying on patience and precision rather than brute force. So why did it fail? the developers stopped believing in pure stealth. The genre has always been niche, but instead of nurturing it, they chase trends. They'd rather pump out generic open-world games with stealth elements than commit to what made Splinter Cell special. The series is in limbo, reduced to cameos in Ghost Recon and rumors that never materialize. And until they remember what made it great, Fisher's goggles will stay collecting dust. In an era where most games hold your hand through scripted experiences, Deus Ex: Mankind Divided stood as a rare beacon of player freedom and immersive storytelling. This was a game that trusted its audience, giving us a gorgeously realized cyberpunk world where every alleyway hid secrets and every mission could be approached in countless creative ways. The game's vision of near-future Prague remains one of the most atmospheric settings in gaming history. It's heartbreaking that we never got to see where this story was going. Mankind Divided ended on a note that promised so much more: a conspiracy unraveling, a world on the brink, and Jensen caught in the middle.
You could have gone with Sweetie.
The story of Wei Shen's dangerous dance between the law and Hong Kong's criminal underworld delivered real emotional weight, supported by stellar voice acting and cinematic fight sequences that still hold up today. Yet despite its qualities, Sleeping Dogs underperformed commercially. Marketing failed to highlight what made the game special. Trailers emphasized generic open-world elements rather than the deep narrative and innovative combat that set it apart. Being labeled a GTA clone didn't help, even though Sleeping Dogs excelled in areas where GTA traditionally struggled. Square Enix's unrealistic sales expectations sealed its fate. While 1.5 million copies in the first year was respectable for a new IP, it wasn't enough to justify keeping the studio open. What remains is a bittersweet legacy, a masterpiece of storytelling and gameplay that never got the sequel it deserved, but continues to find new fans who appreciate its unique vision. There's something special about The Evil Within 2 that most horror games never quite capture. It's not just the terrifying monsters or the gruesome deaths, it's the way it balances sheer dread with genuine emotional weight. This is a game where you play as Sebastian Castellanos, a broken man diving back into a nightmare to save his daughter, and that personal stake makes every moment hit harder. The semi-open world of Union was a masterstroke, giving you just enough freedom to feel trapped in its horrors rather than constrained by them. You could stalk through fog-choked streets, scavenging supplies while something unseen moved in the shadows, or take the fight back to the monsters with brutal, desperate combat. Despite being one of the best survival horror games in years, The Evil Within 2 flopped. Why? It launched in 2017, the same year as Resident Evil 7, which had already stolen the horror spotlight with its first-person reinvention. Then there was the marketing, which barely made a ripple. This was a game that understood what makes horror compelling, not just jump scares, but atmosphere, tension, and a story that actually makes you care. What makes Prey truly special isn't immediately obvious. At first glance, it's another sci-fi shooter set on a space station overrun by aliens. But spend an hour with it, and the genius reveals itself. This is a game that respects your intelligence, offering an intricately designed world where every system connects, every item has purpose, and creativity is rewarded above all else. The deeper you go, the more the game opens up, revealing layers of environmental storytelling and emergent gameplay that few titles ever achieve. Trailers sold it as a generic action horror title, ignoring the cerebral immersive sim at its core. The decision to reuse the Prey name from an unrelated 2006 game only added confusion, alienating both fans of the original and newcomers alike. The game demanded patience and engagement, qualities that don't translate well to quick review cycles. In an era of hand-holding and predictable design, Prey dared to be different. Its failure says more about the industry than the game itself. Some masterpieces are destined to be discovered slowly, and Prey might be the finest example, a game too good for its own time, waiting for players willing to meet it on its own terms. When it comes to underrated gems, Titanfall 2 stands tall as one of the most criminally overlooked shooters of its time. This mech-fueled FPS wasn't just good, it was exceptional. Critics praised its tight gameplay, inventive mechanics, and surprisingly emotional single-player campaign. Its movement system was, and still is, one of the best in any shooter. While many expected a forgettable multiplayer-focused experience, the game delivered a short but unforgettable story. Yet, despite all its strengths, the game struggled commercially, fading into the shadows far too soon. Within weeks, it was being sold at a discount, A tragic fate for a game this polished. Years later, its cult following only grows. Fans still beg for Titanfall 3, but for now, Titanfall 2 remains a shining example of a game that was ahead of its time, and one that absolutely deserves a second chance. If you made it to the end, you're awesome. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to drop a like and subscribe for more. It really helps the channel. I'll see you in the next video.